over the past couple of weeks, there's a verse that just has kept popping into my head over and over again. And it's found in James chapter 1. And it's the verse that says, "Be quick to hear, be slow to speak, and be slow to become angry. For the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God." And this is a verse that has really followed me through my whole life. It's one I've come back to a lot. It's a verse I've meditated on a lot and tried to practice. And I think it resonates with me so much because I know that I am a person who tends to be quick to speak and even quick to anger. And so I come back to this verse and I focus on it to remind myself to slow down, to be someone who is hearing and listening. And as I've been thinking about this verse again more recently, I decided to open up to James and to read it and to read some of the context around it. And as I was reading the verses that followed, I really was just struck with a deeper conviction of what these verses are saying and what James' heart is in saying those phrases. And what we're called to as Christians in light of those ideas of being quick to hear and slow to speak and slow to become angry. So I want to read those verses. I'm in James chapter 1, and I'm going to start at verse 19. And he says, "Know this, my beloved brothers. Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. For the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. Therefore, put away all filthiness and rampant wickedness, and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls. But be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away, and at once forget what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing." And as I read those verses, I was reminded just how important action truly is. And I don't think that in James saying to be quick to hear and slow to speak, that by any means was he saying stop acting or shut down. And I think a lot of times, I know I can do this myself, of I can hear things, I can educate myself, I can try to get to a point where I'm quick to hear and slow to speak, but then I might just turn around and, like it says, I'm looking, I'm realizing these concepts, and then I turn around and I forget in a very real sense those things that I learned because I don't act on them in any way. I don't actually put that to use. And I love that he says first to be quick to hear, and then he right away is like, but don't just hear. Like, that's not enough. That's not what I'm saying is only hear. He's saying action is important and action will be blessed, but there's also a certain type of action that will be blessed. He says to put away all filthiness and rampant wickedness from among you, and he says to receive with meekness the word of God. And so this action is not just any flippant action that we think will best suit the problem at hand. Action is required that is filled with humility and filled with purity and the righteousness of God. I love that it says that the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. And as Christians, that's something that we should be seeking and pursuing and wanting to reflect, is the righteousness and the purity of the heart of God. And so I would encourage you, and I'm preaching to myself here, to not just be a hearer, especially in these times. Don't just hear. Don't just educate yourself, but be someone who is quick to do that and then also quick to act on that, to be a doer, to truly be involved in your community with the people who are right around you, having conversations, acting in whatever ways. And that's the thing, is really our call to action is going to look different. My call to action and your call to action might be completely different. But as long as we are both acting in the way that God is calling us to, and we're acting on the things that we're hearing, and we're learning, and we're not being filled with anger or bitterness or filthiness or wickedness or any of those things, but we're pursuing the heart of God, and we're seeking humility, we're seeking to humble ourselves in our actions, I think we truly will see really, really amazing things start to take place within our own circles and within our own families and our own communities. And change really starts there in so many ways. So I would encourage you, don't be like the man who just looks at his reflection and then turns away and immediately forgets. Be the person who is quick to act as well, and to be filled in humility in those things.